Yo, 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 what is going on, everyone? How are we doing today? We are here for a nice and fun stream. It is Sunday, September 14th, 2025. As always, we are sponsored by the lovely and amazing Gamer Subs. Use my code NOOP 10% off. Link is in the description, and I'll also put the link in the pinned message. We are making a nice little drink of Gamer Subs right now. We are using some raw meat, which is just honestly a really good flavor. I genuinely appreciate it, so I think a lot of you guys will too. Got some great vitamins, awesome, nootropics, caffeine, no sugar so you don't crash. Love Gamer Subs. Thank you so much for sponsoring the stream. I'll be drinking that all stream just to keep myself energized, and I hope you guys are all doing well. That being said, what's up with you guys? Have you guys seen the new Demon Slayer movie? Have we not seen the new Demon Slayer movie? Have you seen my new video on the Demon Slayer fights in Infinity Castle? I think a lot of people that saw the movie or didn't see the movie, I think a lot of you guys will appreciate it. I had a lot of fun writing that video, to be honest with you. So go check it out for sure. And honestly, I think Infinity Castle is one of my favorite arcs in all of Jujutsu Kaisen. Jujutsu Kaisen. Infinity Castle is one of my favorite arcs in all of Demon Slayer. And it has pretty much almost all of the important upper moons in there, because Hantengu and Gyoko, while being cool, they're not my favorite. Kaigaku isn't my favorite either, but I think Nikime should have always been an upper moon myself. Everyone hit that like button if you haven't already too. I'm gonna wait, to be honest with you, to see that movie. I'm gonna wait to see it in theaters, just because, to be completely honest with you, I've heard how people's theater experiences are going, and I don't need to deal with that. Like, it's not a surprise to me that the audience going to some of these Demon Slayer movies are just some of the worst, people in the world, you know what I mean? Talking during the entire movie, unless there's a fight scene. People wonder why no one understands series. It's because they talk during the whole anime. If there's not a fight scene going on, why are they gonna watch? So yeah, I'll probably wait until it comes out on Crunchyroll or some shit. I'll probably wait. I've heard from 3 to 4 people now, not just people that I know in my actual life, people that I know outside of life. And pretty much that's more than enough for me to believe that that's the case. Here's a question I have for you. If demons are able to eat normal food, like 2 specific kinds of... Okay. Next gamer, you almost got me there. Hot take, Sarugi ain't gonna be fully realized. You know what? I think, just based off of the generation we've seen in Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, no one's gonna be fully realized. Favorite gamer sub flavor? So my favorite, I really like JFJ snake oil. I've been drinking the Klaxosaurus blood lately, as well as the JoJo's Stone Ocean fruit to start the day. Raw meat is really good. This is just the caffeine free version, but I'm sure the caffeine version is just as good. So you guys have seen the title. This stream is mostly going to focus on Itadori Yuji versus the upper moons. Now, from what I've seen in chat, some people think that this is not even worth a debate. Some people think that this is not even worth a discussion. And honestly, I wholeheartedly disagree. I think every series has the advantages and disadvantages. Yuji's advantages here are obviously having a one-hit kill technique if you give that to him with his domain expansion. Yuji, I also believe, is going to have a higher attack potential, in my honest opinion. Although I'm sure that there's plenty of arguments to be made that the Upper Moons in Demon Slayer are also pretty strong as well. It really comes down to where you rate these characters. So I want to get into the discussions of how strong each person is. First, I want to see if I can get an image of Yuji on screen. And then we're just going to go through the Upper Moons one by one. Starting from Upper Moon 6 all the way down to Upper Moon 1 and see how far Yuji can get as if he was going through this in a gauntlet. So there are going to be multiple versions of each fight that I want to take into account because as we go into the stats, there will be advantages and disadvantages, like I said, that each character will have. I want to go through both versions, giving each character their specific advantage, giving each character their specific disadvantage, do an equalized version, as well as do these in a gauntlet version if Yuji was to go one by one as if he was actually in the Infinity Castle by himself fighting. So also that we'll be testing Yuji's stamina against the unlimited stamina demons as well. Now, these are just going to be 3 different things that are going on at the same time. So again, whatever gauntlet you want to take as the true gauntlet that we go through today, that is completely up to you. Can I get a background of Infinity Castle here? There we go. See if we can get real official in here. Go underneath everything. Perfect. No, this is all about Yuji, but what if Jonathan Joestar is taking on the Gauntlet and maybe against Muzan too? I don't know how far Jonathan Joestar would get. No stand is going to be rough. So obviously, just to make things supremely easier so no one is able to say anything to start this all off with, Yuji will have Nichiren gauntlets. I know everyone's going to say that, oh, well, like, if he doesn't have a Nichiren blade, he's not going to be able to decapitate the demons or anything like that. Then there you go right there. That is one specific reason that Yuji will be able to take on the demons that he'll be facing. And someone that just brought up a really good point is a lot of the issues that Yuji is going to have aren't necessarily going to be as easy as he no-diffs them because he high overstats them. A lot of the demons do indeed have weird blood demon arts and gimmicks that he's going to have to play around to win. Now, just focusing on Yuji for a hot minute. There are multiple different ways that you would be able to scale Itadori Yuji. Itadori Yuji at just basic low ball should be at least city block to multi-city block attack potential, simply just based off of the things that we have seen in Jujutsu Kaisen. This man is jumping from the street all the way up to a skyscraper, and when he lands in the skyscraper, he's putting an entire crater in that. When we see him in around 214, around that chapter range, when he's fighting Sukuna inside of Megami's body, Yuji is quite literally demolishing the entire town effortlessly as he's chasing Sukuna through the entire city, just completely demolishing buildings, grabbing street poles and throwing them at him. The entire, entire neighborhood is collapsing as Yuji and Sukuna are throwing hands, and Sukuna is barely even playing around, right? Same is said when Yuji and Maki are throwing hands with Sukuna later. And we also see Yuji get a massive power boost in the Shinjuku Showdown, of course. But overall, just attack potential. He's also, very comparable, I think, to even surpassing the Three-Finger Sukuna feat when Three-Finger Sukuna was just like tossing Megami through buildings and kicking him through buildings. Yuji is very clearly capable of that just by the way we see him handle the helicopter guy in the very first instance of him entering the culling games in Tokyo Colony #1. That also is scaling him in accord with people like the Disaster Curses, Dagon, Toji Fushiguro, Maki Zenin, and stuff like that. So again, low ball, it's very easily to say Yuji is city block to multi-city block. And if you want to highball him, you could probably give him town to, I'm sure people would give him even higher. But right now, I just want to focus a little bit on that genuine mid-range of multi-city block to maybe bordering on town level if you give him Black Flash, right? And then, as it comes down to it, Demon Slayers, the demons specifically, the upper moons, are pretty much the almost exact same way, if you really want to be honest. The upper moons specifically, just going off of Upper Moon 6 Gyutaro's feat, where he blows up the entertainment district with his self-destructive move. A lot of people argue to this day about where that actually scales the demons and the upper moons, specifically because that is probably the best feat that we see from any of these demons, from Hantengu, from Gyoko, from, you know, Doma, from Kokushibo, and even Muzan. We don't really see anything that would make, you know, the upper moon demons, you know, town to city level, even though I've even seen people highball the upper moon demons to mountain level. So there are definitely different ways that you could justify where the demons scale power wise. So I think the easiest way to say attack and durability is not where Yuji and the upper moons are going to have really that large of an advantage over one another, no matter what way you look at them. I think where the big difference in these characters is going to be is strictly going to be their speed. Because even if you do want to say that Yuji is getting the lightning time highball that a lot of Jujutsu Kaisen characters, at least in the upper echelon, are able to get from Kashimo's lightning bolt, even though I think it's a little controversial, I wouldn't say they reach exactly lightning time. I'd say they're probably a fraction of it, maybe a third of lightning time, half of lightning time, or again, highball, you could give them full lightning time. But at the very least, the characters in Jujutsu Kaisen are hypersonic range. They're able to contend with bullets, at least characters like on Maki, Zenin speed. Yuji's able to compete with Maki in speed. He's also able to compete somewhat with Ryoma and Sukuna in speed. So even, again, Yuji very clearly is on the higher upper echelons of Jujutsu Kaisen speed. Although, this is where Demon Slayer has Yuji beat, because the upper moons are no doubt with 110% vastly faster than the speed of lightning. You have Hashira like Mitsuri Kanroji that are significantly faster and able to double jump out of the way of lightning bolts in quite literally, you know, point blank in the air already range. So, and Mitsuri Kanroji is not one of the strongest Hashira by any means. She's pretty strong, I don't want to say she's not, but she's not one of the fastest by any means either. So, if we're giving upper moons on Hantengu's level, and Kaigaku is the thunder-breathing Hashira, and he was only given Upper Moon 6. He didn't replace Upper Moon 5, even though the position was open, it was vacant. So I would argue to say Upper Moon 6, even Gyutaro, is probably on the level of Lightning Time, going up against Tengen, who is said to be one of the fastest Hashira of all time. I don't think that is that debatable. I think it's very clear that Upper Moons are going to have a huge speed advantage, even when it comes down to Gyutaro. So that being said, this is where things like Blood Demon Arts, this is where things like the tactics that Yuji is going to need to use against some of these upper moons are going to come into play, right? Because it's if we're talking that durability, if we're talking that attack potency are all going to be on similar levels, the upper moon demons are going to be somewhat capable of, you know, doing damage to Yuji. More so probably than Yuji even might be able to damage to them, because you figure even if Yuji is going with a Nichiren Gauntlet, he has to specifically aim for their necks and try to decapitate them. Otherwise, all of it is null and void, right? None of it actually matters. But what's even worse is that means while the demons also have regenerative abilities, and while, again, Yuji's not going to be, you know, without reverse curse technique, the demons have unlimited stamina, whereas Yuji does not. Yuji has very high stamina, especially if he continually hits Black Flash on Black Flash on Black Flash, but there's no guarantee he's going to hit Black Flash. I don't care what anybody says, Yuji cannot hit Black Flash on command. I think that's a guaranteed fact. So, when it comes to people like Upper Moon 6, the first Upper Moon 6, not Kaigaku, but the first Upper Moon 6, Gyutaro and Daki, the issue is, not only is he going to have to be worrying about two different threats at the same time that are significantly faster than him, able to do decent damage to him, even though he's going to be able to use reverse curse technique and heal it. The issue is, he can't take either of these characters out unless he kills and decapitates both of them at the exact same time. Now, there is the argument, of course, that Yuji is able to do soul damage when he's able to use his soul dismantle and able to use his soul punches. But again, this is where the speed advantage comes into play. So this is where we get into the different versions of the fight. We have the version of the fight where we're using actual series versus series stats, where Yuji's at the speed disadvantage. We are also going to have the version where everything is equalized speed-wise, so we'll see if speed is actually the defining factor. We might be able to give Yuji a chance here. But then also I do want to give an option of, again, if we're going Gauntlet-wise, Yuji very likely can only use his domain expansion once, if not twice, if you want to give him that, because even if you want to say Yuji's domain expansion is an instant win on everything, and that's what we end up deciding on every single fight, the battles become a lot more interesting, and the Gauntlet makes a lot more sense if you say that Yuji can really only use his domain expansion once. If he's going up against, you know, 8 Upper Moons, technically, not, you know, just 6, he's going up against 8 Upper Moons, that's not gonna be, he has to choose which one is the best one to use the domain on. Because if he fumbles, he uses the domain too early, then he might lose in a later fight because he doesn't have it afterwards. So, I think one thing that we definitely need to focus on before we get into how Gyutaro and Daki's gimmick would pose an obstacle for Yuji. I do see a lot of people bringing up soul damage and mentioning that as a function in Yuji's kit, which I do think is important to focus on as well, because this is going to play for every single demon that we face. The way that you can look at soul damage, because it's described as Yuji directly affecting the boundary between Sukuna and Megami's soul. Yuji, because he had Sukuna within him, is aware of the outline of a person's soul, to the point that even when he fights against Mahito, all of his basic attacks do actual damage to Mahito, who again can only take damage if he is hit at the soul level. So if we are applying that nature and giving Yuji the option to use that exact effect on everyone he fights, then we have to imagine that every fight against Yuji is almost somewhat similar to his fights against Mahito in Shibuya and his fights against Sukuna in Shinjuku, which is his damage that he does with his punches do not go away even if Upper Moons heal them. And yes, so you could argue that, oh, do these characters have a soul? The idea is that the soul isn't just like, oh, the demons don't have souls. The idea is every you know, object, every living being has some type of, you know, every living being sprouts from the soul. What comes first, the body or the soul? In Jujutsu Kaisen, you know, if we are equalizing versus to a degree, that soul damage could affect the demons, because again, you could say that soul damage just has no effect to demons whatsoever. But if you do give the soul effect damage to demons, essentially, let's say, for example, Yuji hits Gyutaro in the chest and punches a hole through Gyutaro's chest. Gyutaro heals the wound to his chest. However, because the soul was damaged, Gyutaro finds that he now has 10% less stamina overall, or 15% stamina overall. And what that means is, even if Gyutaro is healing the physical damage from Yuji's attacks, there is still some lingering debilitation on Gyutaro as a whole. And even if you want to say demons have infinite stamina, this might be the way that Yuji is able to get around such said infinite stamina, because eventually their souls are going to get such low energy that they're not even going to be able to continually fight because they're going to be fully fatigued. Honestly, I would even argue the soul 110% exists because you have things like, one, the transparent world, and then you also have Akaza, who fights by viewing someone's fighting spirit directly. So I would even argue to say that Akaza has a similar ability, you know, because he's literally viewing someone's fighting spirit to find them. Akaza, I would even say, if Akaza was to transport into the Jujutsu Kaisen world, I'd say Akaza might have a similar ability to Yuji. But anyway, Yuji is definitely poison resistant, which is something that I want to get into with Gyutaro, whose main gimmick is the poison blood that he has. Gyutaro as a villain is going to have his Kama, his little, you know, half sights that he's going to be able to fight with that he can create from his flesh, but he's also able to shoot projectile blood slashes, even as we see he can do the blood vortex to the point where he can actually self-destruct his entire body and blow up the entire entertainment district. So you have that also with Daki, his sister, playing along the same way. Because these two characters are able to synchronize their eyesight, Gyutaro and Daki are like the perfect duo in a 2v1 fight. They are quite literally able to see each other's vision as they fight. So not only is Yuji at a disadvantage number-wise here, he's going to be at a disadvantage speed-wise. He's resistant to the poison, so the poison won't affect him. He does have reverse curse technique, so even if he takes significant damage from the siblings, he can still heal it. However, he won't last forever. So realistically, what are Yuji's options here? Blood manipulation, I would have to imagine Daki and Gyutaro are going to have the exact same resistance that Yuji has in regards to Yuji's poison blood. Yuji does indeed have Dismantle, which can affect on the soul. However, for demons that are able to regenerate, Yuji's going to have to primarily rely on the soul. Because again, if Yuji just dismantles Gyutaro's ankle off like he tries to do to Sukuna, then that is not specifically going to, you know, make big of a difference when Gyutaro can just heal that wound, Daki can heal that wound. And even if you wanted to say Yuji was somehow able to accomplish decapitating them at the same time, there are other abilities that both of these upper moons have to mitigate the effects of decapitation. I mean, Daki was literally able to turn her entire neck into a sash, so that way Tanjiro wasn't able to cut through it. So not only do you have two characters that need to be killed at the exact same time, otherwise they'll just regenerate infinitely, you have two characters that are able to synchronize all of their attacks, all of their strategies, always share information between each other the entire time, do damage to Yuji based off of the battle scaling, be faster than Yuji, it's not looking good, bruz. As always, I like to throw it to a poll just to see what the community says, and I always like to see what all of you guys have as opinions. The one version of the fight, if we're taking Gauntlet out of this, and Yuji does not have to worry about fighting any of the other demons, Yuji does have a win condition in domain expansion, as long as he catches both of them. Now, that is an if statement, actually, because even if he doesn't catch both of them and he only catches one of them, you could argue the soul dismantling of his domain expansion would play, that would overtake the whole they need to be killed at the same time, right? Because then it's not a physical decapitation. Yuji is literally deleting Daki or Gyutaro's soul. So, correct me if I'm wrong, did we ever see a sure hit in Yuji's domain expansion? Yes, Yuji's sure hit is in fact the soul dismantle. That's actually how Sukuna is removed from Megami in the first place. So, if we are to go with that logic and Yuji's domain expansion does have the sure hit effect of the soul dismantle, well, I guess that could handle one of them, but whether it mitigates the needs, whether it gets rid of the needs to decapitate them both at the same time clause or not, Yuji still has to fight the other one that lives, and it's not going to be an easy battle. And this is why I think that Yuji versus the Upper Moons is still a viable conversation to have entirely. Because literally, even if you go with the middle option of all stats are equalized and Yuji is as fast as Daki and Gyutaro, again, he still has to fight both of them at the same time, and they have perfect synchronization. Unless he's able to catch both of them in the domain expansion at the exact same time, or again, even if he only catches one of them, he still has to deal with the other, who are very powerful beings that are only able to be dead through decapitation. Because if Yuji uses domain expansion and he still has Daki or Gyutaro alive, he's now in technique cooldown and at the complete mercy of the demon. So I don't think this fight is easy. I think if speed is equalized, I think Yuji has a much better chance at winning. Especially if you consider that with the speed being equalized, he probably has a better chance of catching both Daki and Gyutaro in the domain at the exact same time. Does Yuji have the advantage of the demons not knowing what a domain is? So you could argue that they don't know what a domain is. However, with their heightened battle sense, I would argue that most demons are going to have a feeling that something ain't right the moment that Yuji takes a stance. It just depends. If you want to say that they have no idea and Yuji's able to catch them off guard, then yeah, Yuji definitely is able to easily capsize them if they both go in for an attack at once. Again, which is why I think if Yuji has speed equalized, he has a much better shot at winning. The main issue is if they're both faster than him, because if they're both faster than him, they might even be able to get out of domain range before the barrier casts. We can say they don't have cursed energy and domains don't work. Well, I would argue so like the whole idea with cursed energy is every single person in existence has some cursed energy, just not enough to see curses. The only person that doesn't have cursed energy are people like Toji and Maki. So I would even argue that even going by Jujutsu Kaisen rules, most of these characters probably would have cursed energy. It just wouldn't be enough to see curses. So I really think Yuji versus Gyutaro and Daki is a much closer fight, but it looks like from the poll, we got 30 votes here. We've got Yuji coming in at a 67% win rate, Gyutaro and Daki at 33%. Again, I think if we're going with the stats that the series give us, I find it kind of hard for Yuji to win outright. I do see that he has win conditions, but it's just kind of tough. It's just kind of tough for me personally. I think this is one of the toughest fights he might have just because of the duo clause. Yeah, I think mid-high diff, I think it's a very, very high diff win if he does. If Yuji didn't have poison resistance, I'd probably say he'd be cooked outright. That's the thing too. Yuji's main benefit is that he has the poison resistance. If Yuji wasn't poison resistant, he would be cooked even more so. So all the people that are like, I think Yuta probably would have a better chance. Sure, Yuta might with Rika, definitely, but when it comes to the poison blood blades that Gyutaro can make, Yuta's at a big disadvantage when it comes to that. How good is Yuji's poison resistance, though? Yuji's poison resistance is pretty freaking good, and he also has RCT, so I think Yuji's poison resistance, especially because his blood, just like his death paintings, is poison as well. I think Yuji being extremely poison resistant makes sense. So that being said, yeah, I think even if we're gonna give 71% Yuji, 29% Gyutaro and Daki, I think Yuji, this is probably the closest battle so far. And it's only the first battle, so I shouldn't say so far. But yeah, Yuji definitely carried by that poison resistance. But yeah, Daki and Gyutaro's gimmick is pretty tough because, you know what, I think if we were to put Yuji up against the replacement Upper Moon 6 Kaigaku, I really don't know if he would pose as much of a threat to Yuji that Daki and Gyutaro would, honestly. Sure, Kaigaku definitely still has the major speed advantage and the fact that his lightning blasts and slashes sear and rend Yuji's flesh. But again, if we're giving Yuji reverse curse technique, he's gonna have a significant advantage to survive those slashes. Now, Kaigaku will be extremely faster and has almost every single form of thunder breathing, which gives him area of effect thunder breathing, gives him direct and fast thunder breathing for split-second movement. There are options where Kaigaku can actually win this fight. Like, Yuji, even if you want to give Yuji as fast as Jujutsu Kaisen speed as possible, he's falling short of the lightning time that the Demon Slayers have. Without a doubt, just by, again, the Mitsuri Kanroji feat in general. So you might as well just make this like a full-on, like, let's say this is just if Kashimo was able to just swing area of effect lightning blasts as much as he wanted to without any hesitation or no effort at all. This is a tough fight for Yuji as well. I think he can take it because Kaigaku's arrogant. He would probably underestimate Yuji. And you also have to imagine Yuji's things like poison blood, which would be able to slow Kaigaku's, you know, we've literally seen Choso slow characters down with his poison blood and with the blood hardening on the character's clothes and making that slow those characters down. So I definitely could see Yuji having some options of victory if he uses a combination of blood manipulation with domain. Why'd the whole community stop with the light speed and lightning timer stuff? I mean, I don't think that we were. I don't think we ever were concrete on any of that stuff. You know, I think lightning time. Like I said, I don't think I would give Jujutsu Kaisen lightning time exactly. I think I would give them close to lightning time, fraction of it, because we have not seen a character just move out of the way of lightning in a way that we have seen a character move out of the way of lightning in Demon Slayer. Those things are completely different. Hikari just barely moving his head out of the way and Maki putting her arms up is nothing compared to Mitsuri being mid-air and double jumping out of the way of point blank lightning like it was nothing. I think those things are definitely mutually exclusive. For Kaigaku, the argument becomes a lot simpler, right? Like notice how with Gyutaro and Daki, it was mostly the fact that they both had to be killed at the same time that presents an issue. Whereas Kaigaku is just a much more, you know, simplified battle between the two characters. As long as Yuji is able to push through the lightning attacks and get that decapitation, Kaigaku is nowhere near the same kind of adaptability level that all the other upper moons are when it comes to mitigating their decapitation. Whether you want to say that's because Kaigaku is so new, not besides Kaigaku, most if not all of the upper moons, I guess besides Nikime, have workarounds and contingency plans for if they are ever to get decapitated. I mean, again, even Gyutaro and Daki had just the basic gimmick of they had to be decapitated at the exact same time. They both have the ability to kill each other. Yeah, I think this one is actually a pretty close 50-50. Just because Kaigaku will have the benefit of unlimited stamina, so he can last longer in a battle of attrition than Yuji can. However, I feel like if Yuji's able to hit enough black flashes, he could probably eventually outstat, at least attack potency wise, and start overwhelming. And if he's able to like grab on and grapple Kaigaku mid-fight, it's probably over. Also, domain expansion, we have to imagine domain expansion also plays a part, and again, that's about as simple as catching Kaigaku in domain and calling it. Yeah, Kaigaku is mostly carried by his speed advantage, so if you were to give these two characters equalized speed, I think Yuji very clearly takes this, no doubt. Yuji is a much stronger powerhouse, much better when it comes to battle intelligence. Like, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. They are weirdly relative. I agree, Flame King. It is weird that they are weirdly relative. I don't know why this is so difficult. He just pops the domain. Well, the thing is, it's not that simple because Kaigaku, if you give Kaigaku the massive speed advantage, I mean, Kaigaku is going to be able to be out of domain range before it pops. And if Yuji wastes his domain expansion on accident, then he loses. So it's not as simple as I just got to pop my domain. It's also as simple as Yuji needs to make sure the domain hits if he casts it. And also, that's not in character for Yuji to just cast a domain instant. He's not Higuruma. Yuji is going to try and fight Kaigaku hands first before he uses domain expansion. So I think that's also very quick. That's if he moves in time. Kaigaku's gonna have way faster reaction time. So I don't think that's crazy to say that he doesn't move in time. Kaigaku would most likely stay in the domain because of his arrogance. Honestly, I think that's kind of funny to say. I honestly wouldn't doubt that too much either. Yeah, that's also important too. Coconut mentions not all domains cast at the same speed either. Characters like Higuruma and Hikari have much faster domain activations because they don't have a sure hit. But yeah, I think Kaigaku is a much more, cut and dry battle, without a doubt. I don't think that's controversial to say. Much more cut and dry fight. Now, when it comes to Gyoko, I mean, honestly, this one is actually, I see a lot of people hating on Gyoko in chat, and I think that's mostly because a lot of people don't remember that anything Gyoko touches literally turns into a fish. Like, Yuji better hope he does not come into contact with this motherfucker. Gyoko can quite literally just use fish touch and teleport, yes. This is an extremely tough battle for Yuji because even if you want to say Yuji's domain is an instant win, all it takes is for Gyoko to instant, pot back and forth. Gyoko is also a dumbass. If Gyoko is in his merman form, he's outside of the pots. Although as long as he keeps a bunch of pots around, I feel like he can just dive back into the pot pretty quickly and instant teleport. Gyoko can also just drown Yuji. He's able to quite literally create water prison jutsu. That's another really big part. Muichiro almost gets cooked inside of the water prison. Gyoko gets a bad rep because, again, you know, no one really liked him. He doesn't have that great of a design, and he kind of gets cooked and low diffed by Muichiro in the Swordsmith arc. But Gyoko is actually an extremely powerful demon. There's a reason why he was Upper Moon 5, you know? Wasn't Gyoko regenerating despite decapitation? I believe I believe, yes, Gyoko was able to regenerate from his head specifically. So I actually find this one really tough. I'm one of the guys that believe Gyoko only got folded because of Muichiro's mark. No, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. If we're going with Demon Slayer having the higher speed, I would honestly probably say Gyoko might actually win this. Right? Like, not only is he just able to conjure pots wherever he really wants to, he's able to pop in and out of the pots. He can create the fish that can only be destroyed by having the pots broken on top of their heads. He can just create all those giant fish attacks, as well as the fact that, again, if he's in his merman form and he's punching things and touching things and he gets into a close quarters combat with Yuji, Yuji risks getting transmutated into a fucking fish. There's no way Gyoko with the speed advantage isn't landing a single hit and turning Yuji into a fish. Gyoko also has poison. Yuji would be poison resistant, but yeah, getting trapped in the water prison would be tough for Yuji. That wouldn't be good for him. Although I feel like Yuji would probably have ways to get out of the water prison. I don't think that's as a concrete of a win con as getting turned into a fish is. Gyoko does definitely have a major disadvantage when it comes to battle intelligence, as many people are saying. He's not the smartest character, and he's also very arrogant, and he's very willing to put himself in bad situations because he thinks he's stronger than he actually is. However, again, Yuji's really only chance of winning is hitting a domain, and Gyoko might be one of the hardest characters to hit a domain in. Gyoko's Dagon with no domain, but just on steroids. Honestly, that's not that far off from a not that far off. Gyoko's final form is a direct counter to Yuji. Yuji could trick Gyoko into saying, "I'm showing you art," and then pop a domain. That honestly, that would be a pretty high key intelligent move. Couldn't a dismantle from Yuji break water prison? I guess it probably could. That's why I didn't want to stake my claim on Gyoko's victory with, oh, he gets trapped in the water prison. I think Yuji, as long as he plays it smart enough, probably could get himself out. Gyoko's win con is much more reliable. Yuji could still pop a domain in the water prison. The issue with the domain is, as long as Gyoko is in his pots, Gyoko can just teleport. Literally, Gyoko can just teleport. He can just teleport. And the thing is, it seemed it's a little unclear. I did try to look into this when I was doing research before the stream, but it seems relatively unclear. But from everything that I read, Gyoko can just make pots wherever and whenever he wants. Like, the pots are literally just an extension of Gyoko's body that he can just snap into existence. Are his pots nearby? That's kind of the problem, is it seems like Gyoko can literally just make pots be wherever he wants. Right? Like, that's the worst part. Are the pots nearby in domain range? He from what I understand, Gyoko can teleport to any pot he has anywhere. Like, I don't think there's a range limitation on Gyoko. I think he can literally be anywhere he wants whenever. Like, if he has a pot in one side of the country and a pot on another side of the country, he can just instantly snap between them like it's nothing. At least from everything that I've read and understood about Gyoko, he again, he's the upper moon that gets the worst fucking rep. If he could, why didn't he do that against Muichiro? Because he's as everyone is saying in chat, he's actually a fucking moron. He was in the Infinity Castle because of his ego. He literally died because he wanted to take Muichiro on himself, and then Muichiro unlocked the mark and overwhelmed Gyoko. If Muichiro didn't unlock his mark, Muichiro would have lost. Again, Gyoko got overwhelmed because he did not expect Muichiro to level up and get his mark when he did. Gyoko really thought he had that shit in the bag. Gyoko would have rather died a fool than to retreat like a smart person. Yeah, Gyoko was very prideful. He was very arrogant. Gyoko's own personality is what took him out, which unironically is, you know, the kind of poetic nature of almost every single upper moon. Not all of them, but almost all of them were their own downfall, unironically. The same thing with like Doma, who didn't take his fight seriously. At the very end, Doma, like at the very, I don't even want to, we'll get into Doma, but at the very end, he just reveals he could have made ice clones that are just as strong as him and can make 6 of them at a time. It's like, dog, you could have done that from the very beginning. The fuck do you mean? Yuji does have great battle IQ. Yuji does have good battle IQ. I think this, I think this one, upper moons mostly lose to themselves. Literally, they're way too arrogant. Also, you have to remember that there's a reason for their arrogance. Like, as far as the Demon Slayer timeline is convinced, like, these upper moons have literally killed 15 Hashira, right? Like, even Daki and Gyutaro, I think, themselves killed over 15 Hashira as upper moon 6. Like, Gyoko has also killed multiple Hashira on his own. Like, up into this, all of these demons have been alive for centuries. There's a reason they're also as arrogant as they are, because they've literally never been faced with a challenge. They believe the world is theirs. That's how arrogant they are. Like, I'm not saying that makes it okay, but like upper moons like Gyoko dying due to their own fucking arrogance makes sense. Like, Gyoko refused to believe that as coming as far as he did, especially in his merman form, that he would ever be surpassed by a demon slayer. It was just, it was literally impossible to these people. Even so, the thing is even if we do say verse equalization and we give Yuji and Gyoko equal speed and we don't say Gyoko has like a higher speed advantage, the thing is, with the pots, it's still almost a guaranteed Gyoko can still run circles around Yuji. And also, Gyoko does receive a speed buff from his merman form, which would mean that even if you gave speed equalization, Gyoko does have a transformation that would up his speed. Yuji ain't dying to a fish boy. I really do genuinely feel like this is so far the hardest matchup Yuji's going up against. I know I see the Yuji votes coming in to the poll, which I'm glad that you guys are here. I find it very hard for Yuji to win this fight. Yuji's quite literal only win con is domain, and Gyoko has so many ways to get out of the domain. You might even be able to argue that if Gyoko even gets caught in the domain, Gyoko can still pot in and out. Why would we consider this to be any different than when we were arguing, you know, a month or two ago about Samura being able to teleport in and out of domains with his crow ability, with the swapping feathers, right? Like, why would we argue that Gyoko can't just pot in and pot out of the domain? I would probably put so much money on Gyoko. I think that's what I would do personally. I think Gyoko has a W. Gyoko has W's in his normal form, and he has more W's in his merman form. Yuji just needs to goad him into tanking the domain. That's a big if. That's a big if. I don't know if Gyoko is that stupid, right? Like, I don't know if Gyoko is that dumb. Maybe I'm wrong. I find it extremely hard for Yuji to win this one. Yuji's domain is a closed barrier. You can't teleport. Gojo would have done it. Well, that's the difference, right? Is Gojo's teleportation isn't teleportation, right? Gojo's quote-unquote warping is just him using blue really, really fast. That's why Gojo wasn't able to use blue when he was in the train station against Jogo, Choso, and Hanami. Because if he did, he could have crushed all of the people between his blue warps, because it's literally just Gojo deleting the space and then just zip. Whereas when we were talking about Kagurabachi, Samura is literally able to swap places with his feather wherever they are. Doesn't matter where they are, he just swaps places with them instantly. So Todo, yeah, that's just where it's tough. It's really impossible to say. Again, even if you were to say that Gyoko isn't potting out of the domain if he gets caught, I still think he'd be able to pot out of the domain range before it even took place, right? Yeah, I think Sukuna's domain was still kind of open, but either way, I think this one's closer than a lot of people are thinking for sure. I definitely think Yuji has a win con, but I personally think Gyoko has more win cons, honestly. Now, of course, next up, you've got our boy Upper Moon 4. I feel like this is the clearest UGL. Yeah, in my opinion, I agree with you. Next up, we've got Han Tengu. And you know what? Honestly, I really just don't know. I just don't know. This one is probably the most guaranteed. We were literally talking about Gyoko being the clearest UGL. I think this is guaranteed UGL without a doubt. It's just, yeah, like too many clones, too many different powers that are just able to swap Han Tengu's core between them. I mean, we quite literally watched Han Tengu create an entirely new personality out of his fear of getting decapitated. Yuji will still win the poll. Yeah, you know what? You're right. Soul Strikes bypass durability, though. You are correct. However, the problem is that every single personality is completely separate. So, like, it's not like Yuji's soul damage when he attacks one of the clones is going to start affecting the other clones. They are literally able to all separate entirely while Han Tengu maintains the soul, you know, personality. He is quite literally just different people. The only advantage that Yuji has against Han Tengu is that Yuji would be able to tell which clone is the real clone, and he would be able to find the small miniature Han Tengu in wherever they're fighting. That is Yuji's only advantage, because he's able to see the soul. He would be able to see which is the real clone, and he'd be able to see which one is the real Han Tengu, just like Tanjiro is with the transparent world. Other than that, I don't know if Yuji would even be able to get to that point. I really just don't. Because I think it's almost guaranteed impossible. Yuji will just wait until they all separate and then open up his domain. That's not how it works. I mean, like, they could all be in completely different areas. Tanjiro had the sense of smell. I'm sorry, you're right. Tanjiro had the sense of smell. And that because the real Han Tengu leaves the fight entirely. Like, he just dips out. While the other people, and also the issue is Yuji is not going to know what he's up against either, right? Like, for all the people that were previously saying that a lot of the upper moons are cooked because they would not be aware of how Yuji's domain works, Again, we have to remember, Yuji's not gonna just open the battle with domain because he wants to. Like, that's not how Yuji operates. Yuji is also not going to understand Hantengu's gimmick at all either. Just like if Yuji's fighting Gyoko, Yuji's not gonna know he's gonna get turned into a fish until he gets turned into a motherfucking fish. So I think Yuji being at the intelligence disadvantage is extremely tough, especially because Tanjiro probably wouldn't have been able to figure out and get the kill on Hantengu without having Mitsuri, Genya, and Nezuko all helping him get to that part, right? Like, Tanjiro needed 3 other helping hands to fight and kill Hantengu. And even then, after Tanjiro located Hantengu once again created an entirely new personality out of his fear to shield himself and hide himself within. And if you consider that every single one of Hantengu's clones and personalities are able to produce the level of attack potency that any single upper moon is able to do, there's no chance in hell. Yuji is going to be fighting 4 different equally powerful clones, getting overwhelmed entirely, that all have infinite stamina, infinite regeneration, and if they get decapitated, one of the clones, I'm pretty sure, is just able to separate into more of the clones. What is it, the lightning clone? He gets decapitated and his head turns into a bird and starts firing off thunder waves while the body still fucking throws out like its own attacks. Like, and again, if you're considering that Yuji has no idea what's going on, I don't even think Zoakuten would be necessary to take down Yuji. I really don't even know if Zohakuten would be necessary because, again, you still got Zohakuten then for Yuji to take. Zohakuten is actually probably easier because then Yuji can domain Zohakuten. But if Hantengu isn't a part of Zohakuten, like, it's just over. Yeah, Yuji would not stand a chance. Jiraiya versus Pain all over again, yo. That is savagely true. There just doesn't seem to be a way out of this for Yuji, in my honest opinion. I think Hantengu is actually a loss. I don't think there's a single win con unless Yuji gets fucking lucky. If it was like, now let me change, if it was Yuji, Megami, and Nobara all facing Hantengu at the same time, maybe they'd be able to cooperate and get a W. But if we're just talking Yuji versus the upper moon, Yuji goes down the upper moon gauntlet, there's no chance in hell I think Yuji could beat Hantengu. I think Hantengu is a hard stop, even if you equalize speed, especially if you put it in a gauntlet, because we already established that Yuji's only win con against Gyoko would be catching Gyoko in the domain if he can even do that, right? If Yuji can even get the chance to catch Gyoko and trick Gyoko into the domain, which was still a hard pressed ability. There's no chance in hell. It really just depends on one generous domain. We've already given Yuji the generous domain against fucking, against Gyoko. How does the clone division work? He needs to be cut, right? No, I don't think it's specifically he needs to be decapitated or cut. I mean, sure, but like the thing is like Yuji is going to have to decapitate these characters with the Nichiren gauntlets. That's the only way these characters can die, right? Yuji's also going to be using Dismantle as a part of his kit as well. So if he cuts off an arm, he cuts off a leg, those arms and legs can literally become the different emotional clones of Hantengu. Nobara could be OP if she gets a body part. That is actually a really good point. Hantengu's base was also fast enough to dodge an attack from Michiro. Damn. Is Hantengu gonna be able to take Yuji down as Hantengu, bro? That'd be crazy. Tengu doesn't even need the emotional clones. Maybe that's too much. Maybe that's too much anti-Yuji. That's wild. But yeah, I mean, this is a W I didn't expect, honestly. I would not have expected. I really don't know how strong the clones are, though. The clones are each individually as strong as an upper moon. Like, Tanjiro, Mitsuri, Muichiro, all of these characters were, you know, having an issue with the single emotional clones. Like, they are significantly powerful, and Hantengu would have no doubt killed Mitsuri. All the clones are somewhere in the gap of strength between Daki and Gyutaro. I don't think they're that strong. Only Zohakuten. No, they are each individual emotional clone is definitely fucking strong. Very strong. Maybe maybe Coconut is probably not upper. I don't think they're all upper moon 4 level without a doubt, but at the very least, like Coconut said, they're probably pretty comparable to Daki Gyutaro level. If not, they're at least Enmu level, which is, granted, still a problem. It doesn't matter. Still a problem. Especially because there's 4 or more of them. So yeah, I think without a doubt, Hantengu is a hard stop for any kind of gauntlet that Yuji is running. There's no doubt about it. There's no way, shape, or form Yuji's gonna be able to handle Hantengu, especially when it comes down to the gimmick, finding the real Hantengu, and then if Hantengu creates the personality of fear, it's just a no-go. It's just a no-go. And he'd just regenerate even if Yuji got a hit in. Yeah, the regeneration is also a massive point. Pretty sure Tanjiro's Nichiren Blade turned red to kill Hantengu, no? I might be wrong about that. It did from the sunlight, gotcha. Yeah, Nezuko did that. Nezuko turned it red, gotcha, right. Now, what's crazy is I see a lot of shit talk on my girl. I've been seeing a lot of shit talk on my girl Upper Moon 4 Nakime. And listen, I think she gets a bad rep. I think, like Gyoko, Nakime had a lot of protection. I'm sorry. Nakime had a lot of potential, and it was just wasted. It was just wasted, bro. She literally has her own domain. Yeah. Probably a better, there we go, better picture. Nakime lost due to luck, not gonna lie. Nakime was stalemating to Hashira for like 3 hours. Yeah, literally nothing. It's just, is she in the Infinity Castle or in a different dimension for this fight? No, I mean, Nakime, I imagine, is only fighting in the Infinity Castle, and if not, she can pull people into the Infinity Castle. She can just strum and pull Yuji into the Infinity Castle, especially considering that Nakime is going to have the speed advantage without a doubt. What up, Animatrix? Yuji's never even seeing her. Yeah, dog. I don't... This one is just tough to see because, again, I just don't know if Yuji's gonna ever even be able to come close. Like, if we're saying that Yuji is slower than Mitsuri and Obanai, there's no way he's even getting close. Even if we equalize speed, he's at a disadvantage. He's only going to be able to win if he catches her in a domain, luckily. Like, if he's able to throw himself in her range, domain, and catch her in it, that's his literal only chance of winning. And Nikime can just transform the castle to move him away from her. Yeah, I just don't. I think this is less of like, it's not that Yuji can't kill Nikime. Yuji is more than powerful enough to do so. I just don't know if he'd be able to do it. Yeah, she can teleport away, have him free fall and splat into the ground, you know? Are we seeing why this was still a reasonable discussion to have, right? I feel like a lot of people in the very beginning of the stream were like, this is stupid. Why would we even talk about this? We haven't even gotten to Akaza, Doma, and Kokushibo, and we've already had one questionable, you know, pretty decent chance win for Gyoko, a guaranteed win for Han Tengu, and his only chance of beating Nikime is by getting the chance to domain her if he ever manages to get in her range, which I just don't think is possible. Wouldn't Yuji's experience with Boogie Woogie help adapting her to her powers, though? First of all, thank you for the 5 Animatrix. Appreciate the love. And yeah, while I definitely think it would make him like a little bit more used to getting thrown all around the Infinity Castle, I don't think that makes it any easier for him to actually navigate the situation. If Yuji's feet never touch anything and he's constantly getting, you know, thrown and having everything switched around him, and he's not even able to get any kind of landing, because again, if we're going with the fact that Mitsuri and Obanai are faster than Yuji, and they couldn't even get close to Nikime and almost fell thousands of miles to their death multiple times over, or got crushed by a flying building or something of that nature, Yuji is at a much larger disadvantage than they even were. And again, where Nikime has infinite stamina, Yuji does not. While Yuji can reverse curse technique, and he even does sure have blood manipulation, so we can hope and try to, you know, maybe, you know, throw some blood at Nikime, which she can just throw a building in front of her, throw a door in front of to not let hit her. Again, she's got better reaction time. It's just, ugh. Even Nikime is winning, which is just, oof, not good. It's getting harder and harder. Getting harder and harder for Yuji to win. This is not good. Don't know about this poll? I mean, 70% Nikime makes sense to me. Yuji's gonna die of old age or gravity. It's hard to make arguments for Yuji here. Yeah, it's just tough. It's just tough here. She's got the domain of domains, literally. I want to see the glaze people try to give Yuji versus the top 3. I mean, you've got people in my shorts comment section right now telling me that I'm dumb because I don't think Yuji can beat Gojo now, right? Like, that first chapter of Modulo has literally made people think that Yuji is stronger than Gojo, and I just don't understand it. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. So, moving right along here. We have Upper Moon 3 up next, who, of course, is our boy Akaza. One of my favorite demons, one of everyone's favorite demons as always, especially with his backstory. He's great. We love him. You know him, we love him. He fucking literally gave me one of the craziest movie experiences of my life, seeing him show up at the end of Mugen Train and not expecting that to happen. Up against Akaza. Why this becomes a little bit better for Yuji as opposed to the two to three previous upper moons is weirdly enough because he is finally going up against someone that does not have a weird gimmick. However, what Akaza does have against Yuji is, for one, a much better and more significant long-range status. With Destructive Death, Akaza is able to throw shockwaves with his fucking fist from so far away. Compass Needle is also a huge hack, which would make me think that Akaza might actually also be able to deliver damage to Yuji's soul, or at least do enough critical damage to Yuji to where reverse curse technique doesn't exactly work as well as it should. Compass Needle and the fact that Akaza will be able to keep up with Yuji's fighting spirit is pretty fucking insane. And as a lot of people are mentioning in chat, Akaza can technically regenerate from decapitation. And if he's not going up against someone like Tanjiro that's going to question his morality, I think he's gonna evolve. However, it's pretty safe to say that, like Tanjiro, Yuji would probably also question Akaza's morality and might even make Akaza take himself out like he does in the canon aspect, right? You could even argue that Yuji's win con would be the same as Tanjiro's. However, again, Akaza was also fighting Giyu and Tanjiro at the exact same time, dodging most of their abilities, handling them all pretty significantly well. Like, Akaza's speed, if we're giving him the speed advantage, is unfucking real, and he's also got all of the power behind his strikes to heavily critically damage Yuji. Akaza's last attack is super strong, yeah. The issue is of course Yuji's domain, which again, if Yuji's only win con is most likely domain, because it's very unlikely that Yuji would actually come out on top here when it comes to hands. One, Akaza is extremely faster. Akaza might even compete with, if not maybe begin to surpass Yuji in attack potency, just bare raw striking strength. He can produce insanely powerful area of effect attacks from his punches and kicks, where he doesn't even need to get close to Yuji to cause critical wounds and damage. Akaza is going to have the precognition that comes with Compass Needle to correctly react to and dodge all of Yuji's attacks, especially when you consider that Akaza already has faster speed. And even if you want to say their speed is equalized, that's where Compass Needle comes in even better handy, because then Akaza has the advantage over Yuji whether their speed is equalized or not. If we're going by Gauntlet, Yuji's only victory is domain expansion, and he barely would have been able to domain Hantengu, so it's likely he wouldn't even have domain at this point. But yeah, I think Yuji alone 1v1ing Akaza is a very, unless Yuji talk no jutsu's Akaza, he's losing. Personally. Does Compass get nullified in domain? Well, if Akaza gets hit with Yuji's domain, it's the soul dismantle to the kill, so I don't even think that would matter. But let's see what the poll says. I'm curious what everyone thinks. Akaza has centuries of martial arts experience compared to someone like Yuji. True, like, I think Akaza would have fun with Yuji for sure. Akaza would probably ask Yuji to become a demon, right? Akaza would be like, finally, a warrior that actually knows martial arts. Like, I'll turn you into a demon and we can actually throw hands and spar forever. Like, Akaza is clearly, Akaza is clearly going to love Yuji. Again, Yuji's only win con, domain expansion, which Akaza has the speed to dodge and jump out of the range of, especially because you give Akaza destruction his destructive death type abilities where he can literally throw blast long range. He doesn't even need to get close to Yuji. And yeah, I just think it's yeah, unless Yuji literally talk no jutsu's Akaza, he's cooked. Yuji does have the soul damage that a lot of people are mentioning. However, I think with Akaza having the faster speed, the compass needle for precognition, I severely doubt Yuji's gonna even land a lot of hits on Akaza, to be honest with you. I don't think Yuji's landing a lot of hits on Akaza, if any at all. Akaza probably wouldn't be going all out, probably respect Yuji's strength and ask him to become a demon, and that's when Yuji hits him. Oh, domain expansion. Boom. That's the win con right there. There we go. Akaza seals his demise by giving Yuji an olive branch. What if Akaza becomes his brother? Akaza's like, huh, you know what? You're actually pretty cool, Yuji. I'm gonna defect from the Infinity Castle and let's just be brothers. You've got a fucking homie, like too, like Toto? Bro, we could all like tall women with big asses together. Hakuji versus Precurse Energy Yuji is a much fairer fight. That's a really good point, Coconut, honestly. That's a really fun, interesting discussion to have. Akaza sort of hard counters Yuji because he's better at close range. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. Again, it's all up to domain at that point. Akaza low-key chill enough to hang with Yuji? I think so. I think Akaza would be like, yo, you're pretty cool, homie. Become a demon with me. Yuji would need 6 Black Flash amps to keep up. Yeah, Yuji would definitely need that, and I don't know if he'd land them. Yuji shows Akaza what Jennifer Lawrence looks like, and he's like, wait a minute, whoa. You're telling me this is what I could have been fighting for all along? And assuming Yuji could even decapitate Akaza, he could just regenerate. Yeah, I think Akaza does win this in the grand scheme of things. Especially if we're giving Yuji, like, the Gauntlet. Yuji couldn't even beat Hantengu, so he definitely wouldn't have domain at this point. He questionably, probably almost guaranteed needs it against Gyoko, and he probably can't even win with it against Hantengu, so Akaza wins. Akaza wins. And I think we're probably going to end up seeing that this is probably just the case for every other demon after this, right? Because I don't know if Yuji is going to have any luck against anyone else. Yuji stops at Hantengu. I think that's very clear. Because there is no shot in hell Yuji is doing anything against Doma. I don't even know if we have to do a poll. Not only is Doma going to one-shot because Yuji's not an attractive woman, or, you know, the spawn of a woman that Doma used to like. So Doma has literally next to no reason to even fake caring about Yuji. He's just gonna fuck with him. Like, I don't even know if Doma would play with Yuji. Doma has no reason to play with Yuji. I think Doma played with Shinobu and Kanai because they were women, and I also think that Doma found Inosuke interesting because Inosuke was the son of the girl that he really liked, but I think that he liked from his cult. But I don't know if Doma would give Yuji the same kind of love. I have a question. How do you interpret speed? Because you're pretty much the only YouTuber that interprets speed that way. Like, how is Yuji slower than blank if he can keep up? I mean, but that's you would have to interpret it by going what the series tells you. Like, even going based off the highest speed determinations of Jujutsu Kaisen, the best that characters like Sukuna and characters like Hikari and Maki are able to do is just barely move out of the way of lightning. Whereas you have Demon Slayer characters like Mitsuri Kanroji, who are outsped by moon demons, are able to point blank, mid-air, double jump, dodge lightning. So like that's how you can easily compare a series speed with one another, is by certain things that happen in the series. Yuji, who by all nature is probably one of the fastest characters in Jujutsu Kaisen, if we're going based off the fact that even characters like Sukuna and characters like Maki and Hikari are barely dodging lightning, while Mitsuri, who's not even that fast, is again point blank ranging, double jumping out of lightning like it's nothing. It's very clear that characters of Doma level or Upper Moon level are going to be much faster. Doma reveals, oh, your mom was a man, you've got a kill on sight order. Damn, bro. He said transphobic Doma coming in hot. He said, whoa, wait, what? You said your mom was a guy? Ain't no way, bro. Doma said, not in my cult. Yeah, Doma would fucking hate Yuji. But seriously, in all seriousness, talking like enough memeing, like in all seriousness, Doma's blood demon art is without a doubt. I don't think this is controversial. Doma's blood demon art is the best blood demon art in the entire series of Demon Slayer. It is actually the most OP, most insanely broken power in the entire series. It's actually kind of criminal that this man was only Upper Moon 2 and got away with such, like, literally hitting the fucking jackpot. In like you've got Han Tengu, who can split his body off into other things, like Gyoko can, you know, teleport between pots and make fish and shit, and Doma's like, all right, ice manipulation, baby. Like, it's just fucking insane. And not only is Doma one of the fastest Upper Moons, Doma can quite literally use ice and his cryokinesis in a way that there's nothing that Yuji would really be able to do to keep up. Even if you want to argue that Yuji would domain, Doma has actual ice clones. Doma can produce up to 6, if not more, ice clones that are all just as equally powerful as he is, and able to do all of the same abilities and skills that he is. When he only loses the fight in Infinity Castle because he didn't take Shinobu seriously and devoured Shinobu's body when she was channeling all of the Wisteria poison in her. And Doma literally, once he got bored of Inosuke and Kanai, just summoned the ice clones and had them, and was like, yeah, they're all gonna fight you now, and I'm gonna go off and go do something else. Like, Doma, on top of that, not only is he just able to create the giant ice-bodied Sattva statues that are able to basically act as ice golems and fight and cause insane damage and destruction. He's just an insanely powerful close quarters fighter with his fans. He can keep up with Shinobu, he can keep up with Kanai and Inosuke effortlessly like it's no problem. And also, he has what I like to call the Diamond Dust ability, which is Doma can just spread ice wind everywhere that can freeze your eyeballs. You breathe it in, it freezes your lungs, it freezes your internal organs. Like, Doma is quite literally fucking broken. Yeah, Doma used ice in so many ways that are dangerous. Yes. Even getting up close and personal to Doma can be a death sentence if you are not ready, because he just has to incorporate the dust wind with his fan strikes, and you just immediately, your lungs are just frozen solid from the inside out and you're dead. All your internal organs stopped moving, and your blood is chilled to the core and you're cooked. That's not something that Yuji is going to be able to just easily reverse curse technique and get rid of. So Doma is not only able to fight back against Yuji significantly well, even if it gets brought down to close quarters. Doma can potentially begin to counter and stop Yuji's own reverse curse technique. And again, if you just consider that Doma will be taking the fight easier because he doesn't give a fuck about Yuji and sees no reason to entertain Yuji. Because remember, I said it before, the only reason that Doma fought Shinobu is because he thought she was cute and wanted to eat a woman. He does the same thing for Kanai, but the moment Inosuke shows up, he goes, yeah, you guys are boring. I'm gonna go find another fight. The moment Doma got bored, he immediately summoned 6 ice clones and said, yeah, I'm just gonna kill you guys and go find someone else to fight later. There's no reason why Doma would even toy with Yuji long enough. The moment he just gets bored, he's just gonna go all out and kill him. And even then, as he's toying with Kanai and Inosuke and Shinobu, at the same time he's toying with them, he's also using abilities that are more than capable of killing them, because Shinobu, Kanai, and all of these characters, while he's toying with them, are saying, wow, if I didn't dodge that ability, I would have been cooked. Or wow, it's taking everything in me to not have my eyeballs frozen right now. Doma, the only thing that Doma doesn't have against the other upper moons like Akaza and Kokushibo is what Flame King said. Doma doesn't have enough care, doesn't have the emotion nor desire to push himself past his limits like both Kokushibo and Akaza did. When it comes time to it, Doma is like, oh, maybe I can surpass and evolve past decapitation, or surpass and evolve past the Wisteria poison. And then he's like, yeah, nah, actually, I don't have it in me. Doma just doesn't, because Doma was a psychopath, he had no actual innate desire to evolve and break the limits that he set for himself. I think Doma literally died because he did not have the desire to evolve. He didn't feel the same need and want to continue living that everybody else did. But yeah, either way, I think this is the clearest and obvious and without a doubt easiest win so far for the upper moons. Unironically enough, Doma has easier win cons against Yuji than Kokushibo does, and Kokushibo is upper moon 1, weirdly enough. Kokushibo, honestly, is pretty much the same as Akaza when you really get down to it. When you really get down to it. And if you're considering that Kokushibo is also moving so fast that Akaza and Doma are barely able to keep up and even just comprehend how fast he's moving, it's just done. Yuji's gonna be decapitated before he even knows what hits him, right? Yes, a Suguna versus Ryu scenario, completely indeed. Even if you were to equalize the speed, it does become a little bit closer, I guess. However, similar to Akaza, not only is Kokushibo extremely capable in close quarters with his sword, moon breathing is just, I mean, if you thought destructive death gave Kokushibo an advantage when it came to, if you thought destructive death gave Akaza an advantage when it came to fighting long range against Yuji, moon breathing is just it. There's no coming back from it. I mean, Kokushibo, at least compared to Doma, is easier to hit with his domain. That's about all I can really say. But yeah, Kokushibo is just able to fight so advanced and so well long range There's just no chance in hell Yuji would even be able to compare. Yuji would be cut into pieces outside of the domain range. Imagine, it's literally like almost like what Kusakabe was doing against Sukuna, but imagine Kusakabe was literally just dicing Sukuna into pieces when it happens. Like Kokushibo doesn't even have to go anywhere near Yuji to just put him into pieces. Kokushibo has the transparent world, a slayer mark, unblockable crescent slashes that can change size and shape and move their trajectory. It's just... Kokushibo can also regenerate his head. Honestly, I would even consider that Kokushibo might have been able to surpass Sunlight itself. The only reason Kokushibo even stopped his own evolution was because he was like, damn, you know what? These motherfuckers cooked me and I can't accept my own death. That's kind of fucked up. And I don't think Kokushibo would even have those similar feelings in a fight with Yuji, because he's not going up against fellow demon slayers. I honestly only believe Kokushibo was even able to consider that perspective because he was going up against Hashira that were basically proving that he could be surpassed and could be beaten without his own demonhood. Kokushibo's whole thing was he thought he needed to become a demon to surpass his brother. And not only was that not true, because Yoririchi quite literally could have killed Kokushibo if his life was a second or two longer, Kokushibo was once again beaten by the strength of 4 demon slayers cooperating together that all unlocked their marks. Something that makes Kokushibo realize he became this monster for ultimately fucking nothing, because he still can't fucking beat the demon slayers. Which again is just something that would not be capable of Yuji. I can say that Yuji would be able to talk no jutsu Akaza. Yuji would not be able to wake Kokushibo up to his own demise. Just not possible. There's quite literally no way. Just no absolute way. So, I think it's very clear from the poll here, even if speeds equalized, the likelihood of Yuji catching Kokushibo in a domain is just impossible. Kokushibo would like Yuta more than Yuji. Hey, listen, not to shill or do anything like that, but I did make a video on Jujutsu Kaisen. If Jujutsu Kaisen was to go and fight the Infinity Castle, and that was one of the matchups that I did. Yuta is definitely the best matchup for Kokushibo. Not that I think, you know, that makes it any easier, but still, yeah. I did make this video a long time ago. I'm sure most of you have probably seen it, but if you haven't, definitely feel free to go check it out. I had a lot of fun making this, and yeah, like some of the matchups, I got Doma versus Maki Zenin, Kaigaku versus Kusakabe, Akaza versus Yuji and Higuruma, Nakime versus Hikari and Kashimo, and then Kokushibo versus Yuta, Choso, and Ino. And yeah, Yuta obviously plays the biggest part in all of that, right? But and then Doma versus Hikari in the end, but and Muzan versus Kashimo, all that good stuff. But either way, I had a lot of fun making that video, and I also had a lot of fun doing this stream. Like, it is, you know, it's, again, it's obvious when it comes down to it that for all of, you know, the flack that a series like, you know, Demon Slayer gets, they are very fucking strong, at least when it comes to the demons, right? The demons are all exceptionally strong. I think people get a Demon Slayer gets a bad rep because of the Demon Slayers, but the demons are exceptionally powerful. And you can see this just based off of if this was a gauntlet style battle, Yuji would not have made it past Hantengu. Yuji would have been lucky to make it past Gyoko. Gyoko was like an extreme diff, barely possibly close to winning fight. Hantengu is a guaranteed W. Nakime is an almost guaranteed W. And then from there, Akaza, Doma, Kokushibo seem almost next to impossible. So yeah, I think it's safe to say, you know, Yuji, for as strong as he is, cannot clear a Demon Slayer Upper Moon Gauntlet. But to be fair, I don't think Tanjiro would be able to either. So, you know. The only two people who would be able to survive the Upper Moons, let alone Muzan, are Sukuna and Gojo. Yeah, probably. Because even, I think, characters like Yuta wouldn't be able to handle, you know, Kokushibo of all things. Although I will say Kokushibo and Yuta is probably a pretty close fight. Especially if you give Yuta Rika. Yuta and Rika versus Kokushibo is probably the closest matchup they'll ever possibly have. Fun fact, Muzan is from the Heian era indeed. But yeah, y'all, I had some fun doing this. This was a very good time. I'm gonna give it like 10 or so more minutes. You know, we're entering wind down phase, but I think we've covered every possible matchup that we could. I don't think there's anything really more to discuss other than that. If Yuji's struggling against, you know, Upper Moon 4, I don't think he's beaten Muzan, so it's not even something we have to talk about. Out of talk about, wasn't Megami lowering Sukuna's output after he made the puddle? So Sukuna was so Megami was lowering Sukuna's output when it came to using his curse technique against his friends. I think was the thing when they were first fighting. Oh, you're talking about when they were in Shinjuku. I don't know about that. That I don't know. I'd have to go back and see. I know when he makes the bottomless well and catches Sukuna off guard. I don't know if he was also lowering Sukuna's curse technique output. But I know Sukuna's main goal was just casting a domain to clash with Yuji, and that would have been GG. That would have been GG no re. Good to have everyone here for the stream. You are damn right, Mario. Everyone hit that like button if we have not already. Arame versus Doma. I think if we're giving Doma the speed advantage, Arame, you know, does not use ice as effectively as Doma does. I think everyone was right in saying that fucking Doma is just one of the most OP ice users of all time. It's just the best blood demon art ever. I thought of something weird. Gojo was born 1988 and Modulo takes place in 2088. What if a new Six Eyes baby has been born? That's actually a really cool thought and theory, Coconut. I would love to see that. That's actually really cool. How do you think Jacob's Ladder would function in the Demon Slayer verse? I don't know how it would work against their powers, but I'd even be willing to give Jacob's Ladder just as like you're literally casting down sunlight on the demons, you know? I would be more than willing to say Jacob's Ladder is just a guaranteed W against any demons. Low-key want them to pull some Resurrection of F stuff. Yo, that would be the Jujutsu Kaisen sequel that people would want to see. Sukuna gets resurrected from his final finger, and then we got the sequel. We got the sequel characters, the sequel sorcerers, to fucking debilitating these motherfuckers. But yeah, y'all, I had a lot of fun with this stream. I think for everyone that was saying in the beginning that this video was stupid to make, and that how could Yuji obviously demolishes every single upper moon. I think it's very clear that that is not the case. Not the case at all. Not even close to close. But like I said, y'all, hit that like button if you have not already. Again, thank you so much to Gamer Subs for sponsoring the stream. I mean, they are the absolute best. They really do make an awesome product, guys. Go, you can use my code NOOP, 10% off your order, or click the link, use my code anyway, get some free samples. They will literally send you free samples. If you're wondering how I stay energized for these long ass streams, it is because of Gamer Subs. So y'all, I absolutely love and appreciate you. I appreciate Gamer Subs. Use my link, check it out. Just get some free samples, use the code. You got nothing to lose. It's free samples, it's free. And or if you want to buy this Gamer Subs, use my code 10% off. And that being said, y'all, I'll see you in the next stream. Tomorrow is Monday, and remember, Manga Mondays have been moved. Member streams have been moved to Monday. Back on Monday, guys. So we'll be reading some Yu Yu Hakusho again tomorrow if you're a member. Mr. Stream, there's an impersonator with a yellow box on his name sending suspicious links. Oh. You're talking about me. Oh. Ha. Anyway. I love y'all. Appreciate you more than anything. Have a good rest of your night and day, and I'll see you guys in the next stream. Peace.